Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I have Begode Master in my video, and right now I am going to disassemble it to check its build quality, to prepare it for daily usage, and of course do some tuning. So let's go ahead and disassemble it and see what's inside. Traditionally I'd like to start the build quality check with the motor, and I found here some issues with the winding. Like here you can see I can move it a little bit with my fingers. Also I don't like here this place or here, and of course I will do the extra fixation with the rope of these parts of the winding before covering up with the lacquer, to make sure that it will be fixed nicely and tightly. Also I found some small damage of the winding here and here. I don't know how it was done. Maybe something heavy was thrown on the stator, I don't know. Although this is not really a critical issue, the motor will work fine with this minor damage of the parts of the winding. But this doesn't look really nice, and this shows us how inaccurate was done this winding at the factory. The other side of the stator looks really nice. I do not have any complaints about the winding, but I still have one complaint about the fixation of the Hall sensor PCB. You can see here I can move it a little bit with my finger. I do not really like that, because the vibration of the wheel can damage the soldering of this PCB and the elements on it, and this might cause any issues in future. So I plan to add a lot of sealant here to fix this PCB nicely and tightly. And also I'd like to mention that the axle tolerance of this stator is really good. The bearings on this axle sits really nicely and tightly, and I really like that. The paint quality of the covers is really good. I haven't found any issues with this. Just except maybe a couple of dents, but this is not significant. As for the bearing holes tolerances, they are also really nice. The bearing sits here really tightly, so I had to heat up the covers before pressing out the bearing, otherwise it is not possible to press it out without damaging the cover. The stator magnets are in perfect condition, just except some small dents like this one, but you can find this kind of dents in all wheels. In Begode, King Song, and I believe in Motion. I told this many times in my videos, so I can say that magnets are really good here. There are no extra unneeded holes drilled in this rotor on the both sides of it, so I can say that this rotor quality is really good. Speaking about battery boxes of the Master, that's where the shit comes from, and in my opinion the batteries of Master are really dangerous, and now I'm going to explain you why. So as for the battery assemblies, I do not have any complaints. I've checked all the heat shrinkable tube joints, so there is enough sealant from this side and from the other side as well, and on the other battery boxes is the same picture. And all you need to do to make the good hydro protection of your battery boxes, you have to put an extra sealant here inside this outer cable protection, so to make sure that no moisture will go inside your battery boxes by this small tube. But if we take a closer look on the battery boxes, I do have a lot of questions here. So first of all, what we see here is the really shitty material. So now I'm pushing it really easy. This is a plastic, and it is really obvious that this material can be damaged really easily, and this could be harmful if the damage will reach the battery assemblies. The second problem of these battery boxes are those crappy covers. So we can see here it is made of plastic, and first of all I do have questions for these fixing points. So we have only 4 fixing points for each battery assembly, which I consider not enough. And those covers are installed here like this, and they are fixed with the screws here along the perimeter of the battery boxes. And if we take closer look here, we do not have here any thread bushings, and what Begode used to fix it up, they didn't use any wooden screws. They just put here regular screws, like screwing inside it with some tight pressure, and those screws did some kind of thread inside. And if we take a look at the bottom, we can see here the white areas where the screws were located. And this means that the material is already damaged, it lost its reliability. And if we go back to the installation, when the battery box is being fixed inside the frame, it's kinda hanged there, and the weight of the whole battery assembly will try to tear down this upper cover from the battery box itself. like this, so it's pulling down, and you know, when you are jumping your EUC or riding some bad roads, it has a lot of vibrations, and eventually this process will tear out this upper battery cover, and the whole battery assembly will fall down and might be damaged. Thanks to EUC, guys, those problems are being already fixed. I must remind you that I will leave the link to EUC Instagram in the description to this video. So what we have here is a custom-made battery cover. This is made from metal. It has reliable fixing points here, and from these sides you can see the shiny metal thread, so it is installed here bolt on. You will use the stock bolts here, and these custom-made battery box covers will hold your battery boxes reliably and safely. And of course you should order fiberglass protection shell for your wheel, because it will protect your battery assemblies from damage just in case of EUC crash. This is really important to make your battery assembly safer, because you know, if it will catch fire at your home, you'll definitely get a lot of harm, or even your health might suffer.
Weapon the lyrics, everybody just love it. And people come and them say that we majestic. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Murder some tune, murder some tune. Weapon the lyrics, everybody just love it. And people come and them say that we majestic. We kill a sound, yes we kill a sound. Murder some tune, murder some tune. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, and me them a hype up.
So I have installed the sealers from Vasek Pro into the motor, and I will leave his Telegram nickname in the description to this video. Feel free to contact him and order yours. And right now it's time to talk about the controller board of Master. And here I do have a degradation, and I do not like this three-story assembly of the controller board. So we have here the power board, which has the transistors installed on that. Then we have the logic board, which has the processor which operates all these MOSFETs, and the upper board with the display, with buttons and the connectors for the lights and so on. What I do not like how it is assembled, so if we take a closer look to this upper board, it is fixed just with one screw like this, and it looks really shitty and unreliable. I've took here my RS controller board to compare it with the Master one, and here we can see that the whole controller board is just one unit, which is rigid and is really reliable. And here we have a DC-DC converter nearby, which is connected to the main controller board with these wires. And you can move this DC-DC converter wherever you want over the wheel, as long as your wiring allows you. Of course, one may say that this is a new generation of controller boards and this is future, and Ninebot does the same. But I want to disagree with this comment, and now I'm going to tell you why. So let's take a closer look on the controller board, and let me explain you why I am concerned in such kind of design and I consider it not safe. So this is the power board, which is in the bottom, and the upper one is the control board, which controls the power board. So it is connected with those 4 connectors here, and the problem is that the wheel is a highly vibrating device, and if we have some kind of problems with these connectors, like missing contacts during vibration, the result might be very bad and you can fall down from your wheel at high speeds. And of course, I must say that the quality of these connectors are really shitty, and it shouldn't ever be compared to the Segway 9 board quality. And in this previous version of architecture of the controller board, everything is just on one board here. Everything is rigid and rock solid. And the worst thing that vibration can do to this controller board is just make this connection of the DC-DC converter unstable here. And the result might be the failure of your lights, which I consider not dangerous, but rather unwanted issue. And in this case, unstable connection between upper and lower controller board parts will result in motor failure and, of course, the fall of the rider. Also, I do not like these extra devices inserted in another connectors, like this Bluetooth module, which was originally in all boards. Now we have an extra one. And this looks really unrigid and unreliable. Also, I'd like to put your attention on the fact that when they soldered these boards, they didn't remove the flux. They just covered up the boards with the compound right on top of the flux. And the same story with not removed flux can be seen on this board as well. And why I am concerned by this fact, just because there are active fluxes, and active flux, if you do not remove it after soldering, it can do the corrosion to your board, and the result might be the damage of the board. I don't really know what kind of flux Begode uses to solder these components, but I am pretty sure this is not acceptable in the wheel which can ride at high speeds. Right now I'm going to wash away the flux and the compound from the controller board and the battery connection board to prepare it for coverage with thermal compound in terms of hydro protection of this wheel.
Whip and the lyrics, everybody just love it. And people come and them say that we majestic. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Murders on tune, murders on tune. Whip and the lyrics, everybody just love it. And people come and them say that we majestic. We kill a sound, yes we kill a sound. Murders on tune, murders on tune. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up. Who them a hype up, me them a hype up.
Finally, all the PCBs were successfully cleaned up from stock compound and sealant, because all PCBs were covered up with lots of sealant, and to clean up the sealant is really a hard process. Although I do have a lot of experience in cleaning up Begode PCBs from stock compound, this particular EUC cleaning took me 8 hours, which is incredibly long due to lots of sealant on all PCBs of this EUC. I have removed the stock thermal pad from the bottom of the controller board because I'm not sure in its quality. So now I'm going to install this controller board right on the radiator. I will use the high quality thermal paste which I'm using in video card maintenance, so I believe this will significantly improve the controller board cooling in future. So now it's time to talk about the shittiest part of this wheel, is the suspension. And here you can see the frame. First of all, what I do not like in this frame, because it has so long dimensions here, I don't like that there is a lack of metal here and here, and I believe that during crashes the upper part of this frame will suffer and get cracks, and it is obvious that it will require replacement. I don't like the surface quality of these tubes. The polishing might be much better, but we have what we have here. And if we take closer look here inside this frame, we can see that these places where the links are fixed into the frame had to be milled a little bit. This is due to those surfaces are not properly aligned with each other, and the installation of custom linkage required milling of these surfaces, that they will be aligned correctly without any bending in each side, and thus preventing smooth work of the suspension. The sliders of this EUC is the worst part of it. So you can see here, this is the first batch of this EUC, and you can see the difference of the sliders. So I have here the kit of the sliders from Pavel Yun. I will leave his Telegram nickname in the description to this video, and it is not possible to install it on these sliders. So here it is possible to fix it, and here it is impossible to do that, because there is a lack of metal in this side. So no possibility to screw it down here. I know that Pavel right now is working on the new version of his sealers for the first batch of sliders, but they are not yet released. Also pay attention for this fixing screws here. I don't know why, but some screws are missing, like one from this side and the other from this side. Did they try to do the cost saving? I don't know. Right now you can hear the knocking sound of the bushing inside the slider. This means that this bushing is not properly fixed here. So what we have here is the additional screws on this side, which can adjust the fixation of these bushings, but when you try to adjust it and remove all backlashes of the suspension, it is being blocked, because really this screw is improperly placed here, and this type of fixation sucks. It is not like aligned properly in the middle. It doesn't center the bushing. It just pushes it from one side and maybe deforms somehow. So that's why the suspension is being blocked when you remove all the backlashes. And how to fix that? The only way is to produce custom bushings. They had to be pressed here like with some tight pressure. That's how they will be centered here, and there will be no backlashes. But anyway, I believe that the best way to fix all this shit up is to put these sliders into the trash can and produce the custom ones. Also make a note that here we have 4 fixation points of the motor from this side, and if we rotate the sliders, we have only 3 fixation points of the motor. The 4th one has been removed because the motor cable goes around here, and I don't really like that, because this is what your life and health depends from. If we take a look at the upper side of these sliders, we can see that from this side we have 4 fixation points of the slider, and from the other one we have only 2. This is also really strange. Again, this is done due to the cable coming through this side, and I don't know why Begode did this. They just decided that, okay, we need the cabling, we can throw away 2 more screws. And for me, this is a really stupid decision, because by this decision they have made the safety of this assembly 2 times worse, which is not really acceptable for the wheel which rides at high speeds. Also note this drilling here, it has open holes, and you can see my finger inside. I don't like this shit as well. So right now it's time to talk about the assembly and the fixing of the problems. So I've already told you about the Pavel Yun kit for this wheel. So I will not install the sealers since they do not fit the first batch. Also the kit includes this hugger, which protects from the dirt coming out from the wheel. This is also special locker to protect the shock. And these are the dampers which prevent striking of sliders into the frame. So now I will install these dampers here and also the hanger and additional locker. Here is one of the coolest upgrades for this wheel. This is the custom linkage from EUCU. You know that the stock linkage works really bad. It makes the sliders hitting into the frame at the end of its moving, and also it limits the work of the shock. And this is new custom redesigned linkage which removes all these problems of the stock one. And also there is a custom shock installed here which is much better than the stock one. And of course this mod will significantly improve the work of suspension of this UEC. By the way, this linkage has been designed to be used with bearings here, and this will guarantee smooth work of these parts of suspension. I will leave EUCU Instagram link into the description of this video. Feel free to contact them to order your linkage or other high quality and premium tuning for your Begode or Gateway.
Tune.
We play the game to take a lane as we begin. The only way to play today is straight to gain the win. Got the team set, you feel the bass again. So jump about, let it out, you could break a limb. We play the game to take a lane as we begin. The only way to play today is straight to gain the win. Got the team set, you feel the bass again. So jump about, let it out. Jump about, let it out, let it out, let it out. Jump about, let it out, let it out, let it out. Jump about, let it out, let it out, let it out. Jump about, let it out, let it out, let it out. Jump about, let it out, 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 let it out. Jump about, let it out. Tune. The only way to play today is straight to gain the win. What the team set, you feel the bass again. So jump about, let it out, you could break a limb. We play the game to take a lane as we begin. The only way to play today is straight to gain the win. What the team set, you feel the bass again. So jump about, let it out. Tune.
I have pre-assembled the wheel and I didn't shoot this process much because this is a very creative and time-consuming process. It requires a lot of attention to remove all backlashes in the suspension, to align it, to work it very well as possible. During this process I had to work with the surface of the upper frame where the controller board is located because it has protruding elements after production, so I had to cut them out. And I was not able to clean up all the surface from some kind of sheet which was on this surface, so I had to take my Dremel and do the polish to make it nice and shiny. And I did this to install the controller board on the thermal paste, to align it very well and to make as perfect cooling of the controller board as possible, so the heat transfer will be done really fast from the controller board to the upper frame and to the outside of the wheel. During disassembly of this front light, I noticed that it is not possible to make the hydro protection very well of this unit because those lenses are installed without any rubber seals here or something like that, no seal here as well. And my decision was to cover up this board with the LEDs with lacquer. So now I'm sure that even if some moisture will go inside of this unit, it will not damage the board because of short circuit or something else. So you can see here the backlight, it's really shitty and it also requires improvement. So you can see that this light diffuser is not really transparent. I don't know why these dumbass people from Begode did this. They always do such non-transparent light diffusers, and they can barely see even in the night, and you can see nothing during the daytime. Although this LED strip inside this white diffuser is really bright, this outer diffuser ruins everything. So it will go directly to the trash can and it will be replaced by this custom one. This was done by Alexey. Traditionally, I will leave his Telegram nickname into description of this video. Although it is custom made by himself, it looks like a production sample. It's really cool, and you can see it's really transparent. The quality of this detail is awesome, and once I will install it on the wheel, it will do a lot of work for light diffusion. These LED light strips will be seen very well, and the rider of this wheel will be very well noticed riding the road or the car lane even during the daytime. So I have assembled this wheel, and let me make a real quick conclusion on the work was done and what I think about this wheel. Of course, there was done a lot of work. I did improvements almost for every detail in this wheel, and I have installed a lot of custom accessories from USDT, like these custom pedals. We have here the custom pillars, which lowers the pedals to 25 millimeters to make the aggressive ride on this wheel more easily and safely. I have installed here custom details for the kickstand, which helps to hold the wheel more rigidly and safely while it's turned off and resting on the kickstand. There is a custom linkage from USDT with the custom shock, and this linkage doesn't protrude from wheel dimensions, which make it much more safer during the crashes of the wheel. Of course, there will be installed a fiberglass shell to protect this wheel during the crashes, because the battery boxes are made of really shitty plastic, and this is really dangerous in case if the batteries will meet some sharp object during the crash and it will damage the batteries. You know what might be happen to this wheel, or maybe later on after the crash at your home. So fiberglass shell is a must for this wheel. Also, I have installed custom fenders and custom hagger from Pavel Yunkit. This custom hagger will definitely protect the back of the rider during the rainy or dirty rides. Also, I have installed here a custom mudguard to protect the linkage and the shock from dirt coming out of the wheel. Here is the custom light diffuser from Alexey, which will make the backlight much more brighter, and thus will significantly improve the visibility of the rider at the road or car lanes. Of course, I have installed custom sealers from Vasek Pro into the motor to protect the bearings from moisture and dirt in grass. And all of these mods cost the owner significant money. And now we are coming to the interesting question: what do I really think about this wheel? And I must say to you that I really disappointed by the build quality of this wheel. Of course, I'd like to notice that I'm not talking about the riding capabilities of this wheel. I know that this wheel is really powerful and is the fastest wheel on the market right now. I'm just talking about the technical solution, design, and the build quality of this wheel. And in my opinion, missing bolts in the sliders or fixation of display PCB with just one bolt which is located on upper left side is something which is not acceptable in the wheel, which rides really fast and which is really powerful. By looking inside of this wheel, I do not feel really confident riding this wheel at high speeds. I think Begode should do more improvements and add more reliability to this wheel rather than releasing it like this into the market. This wheel feels like it's made of glass and it can be break down really easily just with one crash. That's why I'm really disappointed by this wheel. And by the way, this wheel is really expensive on Russian market. I don't know how it's on yours, guys, but in Russian market for that price which you have to pay for this wheel, I do not really recommend it for anyone, because it requires a lot of upgrades. It requires a lot of money for these upgrades to make it more rigid and reliable for daily riding. So that's about it. If you like this type of tuning, like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and see you later, guys.